All right, welcome to the Seekers podcast for February uh, 25. I'm Wendell Hurricane Burris. I'm the host of the Seekers podcast. We got some guests that's supposed to be here in a little bit, and hopefully Neil will be able to join us if he hadn't forgot. We got Dale here and BC. I'll let them introduce themselves. Y'all go ahead.
Hey, this is Dale from Heber Springs, Arkansas. Sure looking forward to this warm weather to get back out there again. It's been a great day. Had some activity here lately, last couple of days, and lots of rock throwing and stuff going on at my shop at night. And it's liable to get crazy around here again. I hope so. I've got some cameras and stuff now we can get him.
Yeah, springtime, they'll be moving around.
Yep.
All right, BC.
Hi, BC Davis. Cover primarily northeastern White County in Arkansas. Not heard anything, but like everybody else, just ready for this bitter cold to be over with.
Yeah.
Did we lose you, BC?
I think you
No,
did.
I'm here.
Oh.
I'm here. That's all I had to say.
Oh, it looked like it just shut off because the line went across the deal.
Well, it may have.
Barry's here now.
Hey,
Barry.
Hey, Barry.
Hey, brother.
Hey,
How you been doing, Barry?
doing all right. Y'all doing okay?
I
Yeah,
pushed
pretty
the
much.
post here lately. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Mom back there?
Yeah, she's here.
I'm right here. I'm sorry to hear that you got the toothache. If you had told us, you should have called it off.
Oh, no, that's fine. I just took a bunch of Tylenol. That's what I was saying before talking with Dale. 53 and got a wisdom tooth coming in. That makes that's supposed to be half your life over, so that means I lived to 106. That'd be old.
And I told him, oh no, he's going to start voting Democrat.
I don't think so.
Well, I done lost all mine a long time ago, so my life's been half over for quite a while.
Right. Well, go ahead and introduce yourself, Barry. That's what we was in the middle of doing, and we done got BC. So introduce yourself, Barry.
Hello. What's all mine?
Can you hear us?
I'm Barry Preston Robinson. I'm in North Central Kentucky. And Mom's with me. That's Bocephus in the background. He heard something.
Yeah.
Coming.
Yeah, it is. Here's a dog barking.
Y'all been getting this cold weather out there too?
We got a couple inches of snow. That was all.
That's what we got, but 9 degrees at night, that was rough.
Yep. It's cold.
Yeah, it got down to 1 out here by the river the other night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, it was 7 in Heber, and it's 6 degrees over out here by the river most of the time in the winter. I didn't go outside to check the thermometer. I just figured that's how cold it was probably getting.
No fever.
Well, you see, if you had did you say if you had any activity around your area lately?
Haven't heard of anything really. The lady that we went to a couple years ago, I run into her the other day, and that first sighting that she had back in the 60s, she did add a few more details that it had kind of like Caucasian. It was a lighter skin, and there was no hair around its eyes and none on the fingers, and it had a round head, so that made it a type 2. And said she wasn't really scared until its eyes glowed red.
Huh.
Yeah. So when its eyes glowed red, that's when, fear factor went up.
Imagine. Ohio Bigfoot researcher says hi.
Hey,
And we got another one. Cheyenne Gerhart says, hey everyone. Howdy.
Hey,
Glad
Cheyenne.
you tuned in. What about you, Barry? Had any activity around your area?
no, it's been quiet up here. Last time I found some prints in the snow the first time we got them 10 inches.
Right. I've had a couple of calls here since we went up here on the Cadron. They've been some people that live south of where we went. They'll call me and said, "Hey, have you heard the calls out tonight?" And I said, "No, I hadn't heard them, but I'm sure they're there from what we saw." But that was like 3 different times. People's called me and said, "Hey, there's weird calls." So
Well,
when we can, we probably go back over and check that out. Maybe go to the south of the creek instead of up the creek this time.
Yeah.
What is it? Warmer.
Have y'all ever been down south on that one? I don't think I ever have.
Me and Matthew did.
Hmm.
That's all ones that's been south is me and Matthew. I was when I was a teenager. That's where I was at when I was looking over the bluff, and I was squirrel hunting up above, but below was all that chatter talk and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And until Matthew went with me, I hadn't been back in there since a teenager. So that'd be interesting to see all that to the south. Anybody's got any
up the north way, you ought to be down south too.
Yeah, they ought to be. Yeah, that's where the calls come. The phone calls come from. The people that live up on that bluff side down through there said they've been hearing all along the creek there below them, and I said, "Yeah, I'm sure it is." I said, "Just don't worry about them too much. I don't think they'll hurt too much. If it was going to be aggressive, they done would be by now. I mean, they've had 3 years being in that area, so."
Mm-hmm.
I was saying, if anybody's got any comments or questions, feel free to post them. Braden's trying to log in. I don't know where he went. He said he's trying to log in, but I don't see it.
I don't either.
I'm almost asleep. Me and Bo Stevens was laying up on the bed before it started.
Oh, yeah? I understand. Hey, y'all's an hour later than us. It'd be 8 o'clock there.
8 o'clock. Yep. Yeah. I'm turning into an old man. I go to bed by 9 o'clock.
Yeah, that's what I do. got a question.
He
It
tries to
says,
make me believe it.
how do you think the cold weather affects Bigfoot and Bigfoot activities? Well, seeing how all that I don't know, they was making some reason. Maybe they was cold and letting everybody else know it, or since it was so quiet, they was out moving around. What's
I
y'all's
haven't heard a thing up on the mountain since all that snow got on it. But now that it's getting warmer and everything, I'm hearing quite a bit of rocks being thrown and big thumps on the side of the house and just all kinds of stuff out here.
Well,
Real funny sounds the last couple nights out there. Enough to make me close the shade on the living room window. I wasn't gonna let anything look in at me.
it ain't made no difference here.
huh,
Of course, we ain't out there to see nothing either.
right?
I've been out for 3 weeks. Can't hear them.
I don't know what I'm saying nothing for you to hear.
I'm gonna say can't
We
hear them.
wasn't saying that. I was trying to get Braden on here. He still can't get on for some reason on the podcast. I don't. One thing I hate to bring up, but it's a sad occasion. Dale's friend that was on the podcast a lot with him, Cole. He had a accident this week, and the car hit him, and he passed away. We're saddened by that, and he actually saved my life. I know. So
Yeah, both of us, I think.
probably Dale that night too. So everybody be praying for Dale, and
Yeah, we're really
I've
sorry.
been.
Really sorry about that. Really sorry that something like that happened.
Well, there's
Yep.
been a whole lot of our fans have been sending me messages of condolences for him, and a lot of people knew of him or had seen him on the camp outs and everything. And I really appreciate y'all because it's been a pretty tough time.
I imagine.
Yeah.
I remember him being on there with Dale when they
Do
were
what?
on there.
Do what?
He used to be on there with
Yeah,
Dale.
that's what they're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, he used to be want to be on the camera too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
He was a pretty thing.
I said a while ago, well, this is about the first podcast over this in last year and a half.
Yep. Well, anybody got any conferences or anything they're going to be going to that they want to promote or know about? I know there's one April 26th, I believe. Don't quote me on it, but Fout Monster down at the Fout Fest. That'd be pretty interesting to go to.
We ain't got nothing
I'd like
going
to
on up here.
I've never been to that one down there. I'd like to go down there once.
Do what?
Y'all ain't got nothing going on.
Yeah. No.
No.
I got Russell McCord and the woman from Expedition Bigfoot both on TikTok and Twitter.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Well, I was hoping Neil would make it on here, but he's probably busy tonight. Uh, we're planning on be doing some investigations this next month or so. Getting out and just warming up. We'll be have a lot of activity to tell everybody about. Uh, Going to try to try some new technologies that we got and everything. That were new GoPro cameras. We're going to have them out in the field to where they're just continually recording and maybe have some lights that'll come on and with that instead of having the infrared light, just have the trip wires to turn the lights on. So that way the camera is already recording, and once they trip the wire, the lights come on by it, and it'll record whatever's in front of them right there. So that'd be interesting. Hope that works out.
Hey, you've been out to look at my trail cam bit.
Yeah, I imagine it's probably been bad weather.
Yeah, I've just about got the tripod base built for that hydraulic that I'm building here. I'm just kind of waiting for some of this snow and slush to get out of the way so I can get outside and weld it. I tried to weld it the other day in my shop with the door open, about poisoned myself. So for that galvanized yoke, and so I gotta let it get dry enough I can get outside and weld it without being in that smoke at all. And so
Right.
see what happens.
In that gas, yep. Got any plans or anything you're wanting us to do, BC, or anything like that this coming spring?
Well, if I get some reports of activity, yeah, I'd like to, but I'm just going to start making the rounds and start asking people.
Right.
Normally, if something happens, they'll get a hold of me, but excuse me.
I know
yeah,
sometime in March, the drunken cryptids are going to be over there. I'm not sure when.
Baltimore?
No, but they're going to do some at Ball Knob, yeah.
Mom wants to know if there's a difference between now and warm weather.
Do what, Barry?
Mom wants to know if there's a difference between they act now and warm weather.
You cut out, Barry.
What?
Can you repeat that?
Barry, can you repeat that?
Mom wants to know if there's a difference between how they act now and how they act in warm weather.
Oh. Well, that's what we was told. I'm sure they're even though they got warm.
Mom wants to know how the difference between how they act now and how they
Yeah, missed the last part of it.
How they act now and compared to when they're in warm weather. I'm sure during the cold weather they're seeking any kind of food, or if they store food, they're staying around it trying to stay warm just as we are. I know they got a lot of hair and everything on their body and are more able to adapt with it than we are, but it's still got to be rougher on them the cold to cold weather. I'm sure they'd stay in their caves or nests or whatever they're used to living in. They stay close to there. It's my opinion. Then in the warm weather, they're out and about and able to move up and down the creeks easier and everything.
I know hiking on a lot of these trails around here the last several days has been dangerous. You know, you had to really watch where you stepped, and you go down on the ice. So I imagine they're probably avoiding it just as much as we are.
Yep.
Yep. I'm sure they handle it a lot better than we would, but imagine if you got a bare foot and you're walking around on the snow and ice, it's gonna get cold no matter how thick your skin is on the bottom of your foot, it's gonna get cold.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I don't like this weather. I wish it hadn't been hot.
Yeah, that would be one of the things I would do if I was out there. You go to a cedar tree thicket, and it's a whole lot warmer inside there than under the cedar needles or pine needles. And at your last resort for food, if you find a tree, you can actually beat the tree and use the bark to make bread. We did that in high school. They probably don't even teach that in high school anymore.
Yeah,
No.
But yeah, that's good. Good advice for them and for us. If you happen to be caught out there in the wilderness, that's the first thing you do. You huddle up together. You find somewhere out of the wind. Cover yourself with pine needles or pine limbs, and try to stay warm. Them two that was from Oregon that went to Washington and just ended up freezing to death. They say just by conditions because they was ill prepared. Well, I've kind of researched that. One of them was a ex military personnel, so he was trained how to be out in the cold. I still think it's a cover up story there, but anyway, sorry for them too and their families, but I think they did go squatching there and looking, and they got hit by infrasound and got bewildered and run around in the woods there and didn't prepare themselves, and it got night on them, and that's why they froze. But that's my own personal opinion, though.
Mm.
What y'all think's going on with all the drones and lights people are seeing?
I believe there was a lot of them. It's our own military, and they had them there to distract people from something that was going on somewhere else. Really, what the bait and switch tactic. Get everybody talking about the drones. Now there was some of the spears that come through that I believe that was either from extraterrestrials or advanced technology. There's a few of them that was, but the majority was either our drones checking them out, or they had something else going on that they wanted our attention away from. It seemed to work because all of a sudden they just stopped.
Yeah. Yeah. All that news went away.
Mom thought she saw one.
Oh yeah, they were kind of just all over the. Hey, Darren's here.
All right.
Hey guys, how
All
y'all doing?
right,
Hey
all
there.
right, Darren.
Yep.
We're doing all
Who,
right.
behind the building.
who do we got?
We got me, Wyndham, Hurricane. We got Dale. We
Hey
got
Dale.
What's up, Darren?
BC and Barry Peterson Robertson from Kentucky. But yeah, me
Well,
and Dale.
thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Oh,
So, what are we going to talk about?
well, we was talking about how Bigfoot might do in the cold weather and everything like that. But
I mean,
now that you're here, we're going to let you tell about your encounter going out with us the first time, if you don't mind. Oh, hey, introduce yourself and what your background and everything was first. Tell our guests.
yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. Do you want me to tell you a little bit about my background?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Well, it's like I told you in that email you sent me. I guess somebody was saying BS about most of that stuff, and I can understand that. I really can, but you got to understand my background is not like a lot of people's background, and as I was telling you in that email, I didn't get into this because I saw one or because I ever thought I was being watched in the woods. I kind of got into this through the back way, you guys might say. When I say back way, my whole career I was a supervisor for exploitation and mal and exploitation and neglect and abuse charges. So I was always like into the fact findings. What we would do is we would actually refer our investigations to the prosecuting attorney because we wasn't criminal. We was more civil. But my point being, we had to have fact. Ours had to be a preponderance of the evidence, which means that you kind of collected all the facts. So I kind of came about this the back way, you might say, the back way, and the fact that Windows, I told you in that email. I've had some survivalist trainings in the Marines, but I'm not any Bear Grylls or that guy. What's his name from Survivor? By any means, by any means am I anywhere near that. But I've had some survivalist trainings, in the military or what have you, and I can honestly tell you, when I would be out in the woods and what have you, even in California, I was out in the woods for a couple of days, and we had to find our way back. And I remember the first night I fell asleep up side of a tree, great big old tree that overlooked a big old valley. And I don't even remember one time thinking Bigfoot, even though they had shown a thing when we was in that training. They had shown and I can't remember if it was California or Washington, but there was a brochure which had a Sasquatch on it. There was a brochure and it had this Sasquatch on it. And I remember, somebody in the thing, or it was me, somebody had mentioned this, and somebody made a joke out of it, and that's the last thing I remember of it. But I do remember it being in there that they had that on one of their like the live, living, and they had like a cougar on it, and they had a grizzly bear, and a black bear. I remember that, and what have you. But I remember ever thinking when I was out in those woods, being fearful of Sasquatch, and I never have been. But as I got older and what have you, you start to think in a different way, especially when you do fact finding, and putting together investigations, and that's what basically we did. We investigated and we put the pieces into place until we had the jigsaw puzzle made up, and then preponderance was to found or not found, and if this person needs to be prosecuted or not. So that gives you. So I came in it from that way, and the fact that when YouTube started way up, and it was YouTube when it was the internet that started way up, and I'm old, but it didn't start up till I was about like 32, 33, 34, and working for the state of Arkansas, which I did for 30 years. But it didn't start up until then. But as I got to see more and more and more of this, stuff started coming out. You know, you're seeing this, and at first you're like looking at it going, that's bull. That can't be. No way. Then all of a sudden you start seeing things that, you know, like, I'll give you an example. I was watching a report one time where he shot the thing in the chest. They said he just sat there and looked at me when he shot him in the chest.
Hey,
and I was thinking, I'm sitting there thinking, you know, I was in the military, bull crap. Ain't nothing going to sit there when you unload a high-powered weapon and just look at you after you do that. But then, have you guys ever heard that when I talk about you having to take every piece and put it into a jigsaw puzzle? I told you guys, you put it into a jigsaw puzzle. So that goes into one section in your mind. Okay, somebody claims they shot it, and it just stared at them when they shot it in the chest. Then all of a sudden you hear another person say that. And they're going, okay, I'll stick that up there too. But then I listened one time to an account of you guys know that Daniel Boone killed one, right?
Right.
Did you guys know that? Have you guys ever heard the whole story on that, on how that happened and what have you? Have you ever heard the whole story on that?
I think
I
I
think I have.
What's that? Yeah.
Yes.
Apparently what happened, guys, was, you know, Daniel Boone did not want to talk about it at all. He didn't want to talk about it, but they cornered him in one of those conventions when he got older in life.
Mm-hmm.
And he was heckled out in the room by people, you know what I mean? Probably much like me, who would sit there and say, oh, that's bull. Whatever. That's what he said. He was heckled. And again, remember, I'm that fact finder, you know, who just picks out facts from everything. And even though you might not, but you still got to take certain portions of what that person said and put it up here, whether it's believable or not. And so he said that he was, a couple of those guys in there said they got the heckler out of there, and they asked him later on, would you please recount to us what happened on that, when that happened? So he got with a couple of the people, and he recounted it. As I best remembered, I mean, he had a horse stolen by the Indian that he knew, just a bunch of Indians down there. And apparently he went down there with his son to find these Indians. Well, when they got there, they found out that the Indians were much more numerous than they was. And they felt that the horse wasn't worth it. Good plan by Daniel Boone. You know, let's just forget about the horse. Let's go back. But they'd used so much provisions to go after that they had to hunt this little valley. You see what I mean? Right there, they had to hunt this valley going back because they'd used all their provisions. So they figured we just use it coming back. And they didn't want to use it while they was coming up there to hunt those, because then they'd let the Indians know they was coming. So they was using this valley coming back, and he heard his son shoot the gun. But then he heard his son follow up real fast later with another shot. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, Daniel Boone would know that. And apparently he knew, and I'm not an expert on primitive weapons, but he knew by the way that this had sounded that his son had not appropriately done what he taught him to do on this shot. So he went to that place thinking his son, was in trouble, and saw a great big gorilla looking thing, leaning over his son, about to pick his son up again, you know what I mean? And I think he was at a distance of 200 yards. I'm not going to put anything in there that I don't know. This is the way I remember it. I think he was at a distance of 200 yards or whatever. But he drew a bead. He didn't want to shoot because he might hurt his son. But at the same time, he did not want to shoot, because if it picked his son up and threw him down again, he knew it would kill him, because he had already picked him up and threw him down. So he shot, and the creature dropped. And I'm not going to go into a lot on this, but my point was, remember what I told you, I pick up little bits and pieces from everybody's testimony on what is true and what's not. Anyway, the one part that I picked up on that was when he examined the creature, how thick was its chest? You guys remember?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
2 inches thick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was fully protected by bone.
Yeah.
Now I'm sitting here think about this. You see, I don't come into it from the ways you guys might. I don't know about you guys, but you guys might have seen one already, and that's the way you come in. Mine was not that way. Mine's like, wait a minute now. Daniel Boone says, I examined one of those things, and he's got no reason to lie about this. I mean, the man's a legend. What would he have to lie about it?
Yeah.
I shot it, and when I looked at it, 2-inch chest. That makes sense about why people say when they've shot him, they've just stared there and looked at him.
Yep.
And what have you. And now, by the way, he shot it in the head and what have you. So anyway, my point to say that was just to make a point about how I take different things and put it into what have you. And I remember as a child, my dad and I went to we went to visit. We went to Hunt, and it was on up in Missouri. And I guess I was probably about 15, 16. And we went on a guy. They let us use his land to hunt on. And I remember my dad. I was in this stand, and then he left, and he went to another stand, and I was up behind stand. And I heard all these whistles. I heard a whistle come out from one section, and it sounded just like a person who was whistling to you. It's like a person. Then I heard another whistle from another section. And then there was a third whistle, and that's all I heard was 3 whistles. And it was so much that I thought it was my dad that I was hollering out to him, hey, why are you whistling at me? But it wasn't him. Later on, I heard some of those same whistles on a recording on that YouTube. And I remembered back from the time that I was young, thinking, I remember those whistles as clear as yesterday. Now, again, I have never been in the woods and thought that I was being watched or seen. But I could have sworn, guys, those whistles, the exact same whistles, what have you. As a matter of fact, me and my wife, probably about 2 or 3 years ago, we've got several houses, but we was at the house in Russellville. And we heard this sound out in the woods. And it was a god awful sound, like you'd hear in a like on a movie, horror movie. There was a sound coming up in the woods, and my wife says, "Go up there and find out what that is." And I said, "Nope, I've seen that movie." I said, "I've seen that movie before. I know how it ends." No, I said, "Brave, no, not me. I'm not going out and doing that." But anyway, later on, we watched a YouTube show, and you know what it was? A bobcat.
Oh, yeah.
And I never heard a bobcat do that before. And it was exactly the same sound. You see what I mean? That was on there. It was a bobcat.
Right.
And anyway, so I remember me and my wife looking at each other at the same time when we was watching that YouTube nature thing, and that bobcat was making that screaming sound. And we looked at each other and said, that's what that sound was, a bobcat out in the woods and whatever. So I'm not real quick. What my point is, I'm not real quick to assume that everything is a Bigfoot out in the woods. Not real quick to do that, whatever. So anyway, so then that brings us to where one day my daughter was speaking to John, which is Thomas's son.
Right.
And he was Thomas's son. And I was just kidding with him. I said, hey, you guys ever get any reports on Bigfoot? He says, as a matter of fact, we do. He said, my dad does this, which brought me to you guys. You see what I mean?
Oh.
That's how that come to you guys. Kind of like just bringing this all full circle, bringing it straight up to you guys and whatever. So I contacted him and said, okay, let's go out and do all that stuff and whatever. Which brings us to that night. Remember that night when it happened?
Right.
When you walk into a place, oh, yeah, I know all about this. Yeah, I can see this. And you know where it will be if I was that thing right there up on that point right there. Yeah. Well, something was up there, Wendell. Something that scared me a whole lot more than I scared it. You know what I mean?
I know. We heard it go off the hillside.
And then you guys run after it. So I was like, I'm up there on that point. But anyway, my point being on that, if you guys can remember, I went ahead, remember? I went ahead up in the dark. And again, I'm not bragging or whatever. I've always been able to see real good in the dark. I don't know why. I just got better night vision than a lot of people do. Probably help me.
I'll intervene
What's
there
that?
and say, yeah. I'll intervene there and say, yeah. The conversation was, we don't know about this guy because he's out there in the dark. And Thomas said, well, he's all right
The
with it. I
device
said, well,
overheating. Up here
he
from
can't
seeing.
protect you if he's out there. But
Says my
anyway, go
device is
ahead.
up.
Yeah. I mean, like I told you, when I've never been afraid of the dark. I don't know why. I don't know why that is. I've
Phone may
always
be
been at
dead.
peace
The
with the
device
dark.
may slow down. Charging may be paused. After the device
And
cools down, performance will return to normal automatically.
and Wendell, if you can remember, I only carry one thing, right? I carry my knife.
Right.
Yeah, that's all I carry. Personally, guys, from everything I've read about this thing, I don't think a gun's going to do you most. And remember, we had a long conversation about that down there, whether or not you should carry a gun or not. Well, I'll tell you something, guys. I don't think you ever get the gun off. But I guarantee you, for some reason, I feel real comfortable with that knife. It's my old Marine Corps knife. And I remember what I told you, Wendell. If something happens to me, check that blade because it's going to have some blood on it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I might be dead, but that blade will have some blood on it and what have you. Guns are hard to. I don't care if you're close quarters or what have you. That's why the Marines they teach you that close quarters combat, and that was always the one I was most comfortable with is close quarters with that knife. You know what I mean and what have you. So anyway. So I wasn't afraid to go on up there in the woods by myself, you know what I mean, with the knife and and I'm coming to a point on this and with my eyes and I thought to myself, and I told you if there was anything going to be there, I told you exactly where it was going to be by reading that terrain, because that's exactly where had I been stalking you guys or had I been reconning you guys, that's exactly where I would have been looking at you guys down from that point right there, reconning you. So anyway, I go up there and I told my wife, well, I don't know if she believes me when I got home. I told her I went right up there to that thing, and when I started to get close to it, I'm sitting there going, yeah, well, Darren, if you're right, it's going to be right here. But guys, I was like 50-60% believing it. You understand how sometimes you do stuff and you're like, yeah, right, whatever. And I don't know how I got so close, but I guarantee you, whatever that was, I got within 5 feet of it. It was 5 feet, and it busted out. It busted out. It moved a lot of air, which is why I thought it was an owl. I felt the wind off of it, which is again why I thought it was an owl. You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. And if you guys remember, Wendell, it crashed down there past you guys. And whatever, to the left of me and kind of to the right of where you guys was, or actually, if you guys were looking up at me, it's to the right of where you guys was. Then it crashed down at, and whatever. And then there was a second one. I think it was crashing behind it or something. I don't know. I was too right there. I was stunned. I'd be dead if that was if it had meant to hurt me. I'd be dead right now because I wouldn't have even got the knife out on time. That's how fast and.
When it come off the hill, it sounded like it scared you. You scared it as much as it scared you.
No. Wendell, hey, Wendell, trust me, scared. I scared it more than it scared me more than I scared it. I guarantee you. Because my heart was just. Can you guys imagine being in pitch black and all of a sudden that busting out on you? I mean, think about being in pitch black and all of a sudden, boom, something that big just taken off. There's no way I even thought I was going to get that close to it. I wonder sometimes whether or not, because I got off the road. You remember we was on that road that came up there. And I wondered one time, I did wonder maybe it had not expected me to get off the road and get into the woods like I did. It was, watching me from there. And then I don't think it expected me to get that close to it. Now, Wendell, I've told you 100 times, I don't know what it was. Didn't see it. Can't say what it was. Didn't see it. Does that make sense? And I'm not one to go run. I'm not one to go running around saying it is when I don't know. I never saw it. Never. All I know is it moved.
Huge, Joe.
it moved wind. When it ran, it moved wind.
Mhm.
And I'm not. I guess it's not like I just come back and told you guys. You guys heard it, so it's not like I come back and says, "Oh yeah, this happened to me up there." Y'all heard it come down the thing. I think it run down there in that hollow, whatever.
Yeah.
Or flew. I don't know. There was just an awful lot of noise when it busted out. It was right behind that tree, and I got close to it. I guarantee you. And I'm kind of glad it did, because if I had bumped into something big and furry, I'd probably died of a heart attack right there. You know what I mean? But anyway, that's pretty much the story of that night. You know,
Feels just like standing next to a freeway when a semi comes by, doesn't it?
That's what
All the wind hits you.
Yes. You talking about the wind?
Mm-hmm.
You talking about the wind?
Yeah.
It wasn't quite as bad as a semi, but I would say a car.
Yeah.
When the car went by, I wouldn't say a semi, because I've had, because I'm sitting there trying to remember the semi and the trucks. When a car goes by, it moved enough wind to let you know it whatever it was fast. When it whirled, it moved a lot of air.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean? And Wendell, if I can remember, you and Thomas, was it you and Thomas that were down there? Who was it? I can't remember.
me, Thomas, and Clint.
Yeah, Clint. That's right. But it was on you guys. I'm talking about at that bottom, real quick, whatever it was, very quickly.
Dale
You know what I mean?
disappeared. I mean, we was looking for Dale. He was up the trail a little ways, and that's when you went around through the woods there, and it jumped up or whatever it did. But we sure heard it, and it come right down. I thought it was going to come down there to where we was actually at, but it veered to the right of us a little bit.
Yeah, because there was a little hollow in there. Remember, it went down into that hollow and what have you. That you was at. But Thomas was the one who asked me where was I going. I said, Thomas, if you're going to see one of these things, you ain't going to see it at camp, and you ain't going to see it on the road. You want to see one of these things, get out. You got to get out into the woods. You know what I mean, and what have you. I just, guys, to tell you the truth, I think I just got lucky, because I didn't even believe that myself when I first. You see what I mean? Didn't even believe it myself.
That happens a lot in the area too.
Now that's not where you guys are going on the first, is it?
No. Well, kind of, but it's close to there.
What happened on the last one?
Well, I'll let Neil. Hey, Neil, tell what happened when we pulled up there after the town hall meeting.
You guys have a town hall meeting?
Yeah, we
That
did
would have
have.
been cool. That would have been cool. How many people?
Yeah,
how many
it was
people showed up?
Probably 40.
You guys
We
had
had a
40
lot of
people show up?
Yeah, we had a lot of residents come up and would talk to us afterwards about events that's happened around there. And actually, one of them went with us that evening to the area too. Neil, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Go ahead.
Yeah, tell them what happened after we pulled up after the town hall meeting when we was going out to check the worship area, worship center, and you pulled up. Remember?
Yes.
Would not.
Yes. I thought that somebody had separated from Wendell's team, that Wendell had inside area 2 with us, or with him. And I thought maybe they were down there in the creek or where the waterfall is.
Yeah.
And there was something down there, either clanking rocks or clanking wood together.
Yeah.
And I personally thought that it was someone just down there playing around because it was broad daylight.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of got there listening and stuff, and it didn't stop. It continued to happen over and over and over again. And I hollered for Wendell, and I asked him who was out there, and he said nobody was out there, that everybody was with him. And I'm like, well, something's out there. So, and we started to proceed, but then we stopped at a certain point because we all kind of I felt personally that it was trying to lure us out there. And I think we would have been in a really bad situation if we would have went out there. So we stopped and backed up, but it continued the whole time we were there. But we never could see where it was. I think it was right around the curve. There's like or not the curve, but yeah, where Mudbutt Curve is. If you go straight down and look out there, there is like a little indention in that rock. I think it either could have been up in there somewhere hiding, but being inside there, if something gets above us, you're in trouble. So I personally didn't go down in there, and none of us did, but we wanted to. But
That's smart.
I think our spidey senses told us about it. What's that?
Yeah, that's smart. To me, that's smart. Know what your advantages are and what your disadvantages are. Don't put yourself at a disadvantage. I'm serious. My wife, I can tell you something.
Out of all the years of hearing wood knocks, usually Sycamore area is the loudest I've heard wood knocks.
Yeah.
This time in area 2 is the loudest wood knocks I ever heard, and to continually keep repeating. Because we walked all the way back from the worship area, and I was like, well, I thought that was you, Neil. And he said, no. And I mean, they just continued. And like different little locations. So
let me tell you something. Back in 2007, I was out hunting, and I was hunting Piney Creek. And I went down like on these logging roads down into a deep ravine. And when I come back up that logging road, I stopped right in the middle of my tracks because it looked like there was a footprint right there in the middle of the logging road. Well, you know how to look for footprints. You can't just take that one and look for another footprint or another one. You see what I mean? To what have you. So I looked and saw where it hit again, then where it hit in the middle, and then when it hit and kept going. And it looked like a footprint. It actually looked like a big footprint. So I came home and I told my wife, I said, man, I just saw the strangest thing today. That's back in 2007. I said, I think when I went down in there, I was coming back out, I flushed something out, you know what I mean? And it was running because you can obviously tell it was running. And I saw all these things. And so, so I said, I'm going to go down there and check that again. And she came with me. And so I went back up to the down in there. And when I come back up, she told me she thought she saw something, you know what I mean? Down, down the road a little bit that was sticking, its head up over, she said it stood up, whirled around real fast, and was gone while I was down in there. It's just little stuff like that you put all these things together and, I don't know, Wendell, if I want to know that they're alive, because I'm not so sure. I mean, and that's the truth. I mean, it would change everybody's opinion on whether or not you want to go into the woods, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it'll do that.
I remember last year I went with Thomas, and I didn't know the other guys I was there with, guys. I didn't know them. But Thomas asked me to come to a place, and it was down there. It was down there in close to where you guys was. But I don't remember, but it was to the left on the highway. And we was down there for the night, and I'll give you guys an example of this is me. Call me scaredy cat or what have you, but all of a sudden they said to me, if it comes in tonight, we're gonna shoot it. I said, we're gonna what? And they said, we're gonna shoot it. I said, Thomas, you shoot one of these things, you ain't getting out of this camp. You understand that? This is from everything I've ever heard, guys. This is just me talking to you guys. If everything I have read on this thing is correct, and I have to assume and take that it's probably correct, you shoot one of these things, you think you're going to get out of here? And Thomas was the one who finally said, guys, maybe we better rethink this. You see what I mean? And we better not do that. But My point to you guys is I'm not there to shoot one. And I'd probably tell you the first time I ever see one and know the real, I'm probably never going to go back in the woods again. And whatever, be honest with you. There's something inside me that wants to know, are they real? Does that make sense? To see one that I've seen a grizzly bear. I have seen a grizzly bear, but now before I say that, remember it was at Yellowstone, but I have seen one, okay? Never out in the woods by itself. I have seen a black bear while I've been hunting in Arkansas. I have seen a black bear, but it was a relatively small one at about 130 pounds. But I've never seen anything like a Sasquatch. And I just wonder what it would feel like to one time see one of those things walk past. You see what I mean? And what have you. Anyway, so I don't know when this thing ends. I just wanted to get that in there real quickly and what have you.
Well,
it'll either scare you off or draw you in more.
Yeah. Yes.
That's happened to both of that's happened to me and Dale.
Straight on.
Been Bigfoot in a long time, and then one night at Area 2, when they come in, like 7 of them, and watching them work with each other, throwing rocks at us, and I'm talking rocks big as a cell phone, and one almost getting you. That's nervy. I had second thoughts about going back out after that night, but
yeah, Wendell, let me ask you something. Now, who was it the very first time I went there? Remember, he had a cage in the back of his truck.
do what? You still
Was
there,
it Dale or with the cage? Yeah, was it Dale with the cage in the back of the truck that first time I went there?
Cage?
Yeah, I remember they built that cage in the back of his truck.
Oh,
The very first Dale, was that you?
Yeah.
Remember you had that big 44, whatever you was gonna. As soon as I saw that, I knew I would like you guys. Is what my point was. As soon as I saw one of you guys in the cage and that big 44, I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna like these guys," and whatever. But anyway, what I'm trying to tell you guys is thank you for allowing me to be with you. I appreciate it. We might not be there for the same reasons. I just want to see one of these things one time. You see what I mean? And there's just too much evidence out there.
What I want to do is see a visual face. I've seen a shoulder, the back of a head, all that, but I've never seen the frontal face view and like that. That's what I want. Well, I've seen them on thermal because we had it 40 yards from us running at us on thermal. So,
Right.
I mean, it's bluff charging, but I want to see the actual visual face view of it and front view of it.
I just want to sneak up on one when it doesn't realize I'm there and just observe it, which that's going to be impossible, I'm sure, and just
Pretty
watch it.
close
Just
to impossible.
yeah, I know. I just want to be lucky enough to safely observe it.
Hey, in a nutshell, I just don't want to piss one off.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I just don't want to piss one off. I'm serious.
I guess I'm crazy. I want to see face to face. I found all the evidence, the tracks, the tree breaks, all that.
Yeah.
I want to see what made them.
Yeah,
I want to look at the eyes.
Yeah, see, that's. I mean, we're all there for similar reasons, but different. You see what I mean? And whatever. I just appreciate you guys letting me come along and be a part of it. Is what my point is. Just be a part of it. Is nice.
Something on Area 2 this last time, which we've had less activity because we believe there's, the Rangers been in there burning stuff. Different people's been coming into Area 2. North of the pond, if you remember where the pond is on the hill, this time we got all kinds of whistles from there. And we had never had whistles at Area 2 that I remember anyway. This north of that, and then 3 different times we heard the weirdest sound. It was more of a oh sound. 3 different times. It was like I don't know. One of them was in pain or something. I don't know. that was the first time we've ever heard that there, but it was all north of the pond. So when we do another investigation in there, and once we go off air, don't leave. I'll talk to you what we're going to do later in the month. But
Yeah, that's yeah. That's what I say
that's
we need
where
to do.
everything's moved to is north of the pond.
Oh, is it? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And hopefully, I mean, like I said, you ain't going to see one in a camp. I don't know. Lots of people see them from camp, don't they? You know what I mean?
They have, yeah.
Exactly. Lots of people see them from camp and what have you. But
we had 7 when we pulled up there. That's one of the nights that me and Clint had started to walk off because we was like, they ain't nothing going to be right here. But that's when it was up in the big, huge pine tree that's there shaking that tree. And when we whirled around, that's when I seen the back side of the back of its neck. It jumped down, grabbed a tree as it went, and whirled down and hit down there below the Area 2 camp. And there was 7 of us there. My wife was one of the first ones. She said, "There's something up there. Look, it's moving." And she didn't believe till then. She said, "Well, there's definitely something there."
It's another thing is, you gotta if you gotta take some accounts, and you have to take other accounts. I mean, we're talking about the Indians used to say that they used to steal their wife and kids. Yep. Their women and their children.
Yep.
Sometimes you got to take into the fact that, it's like everything in the animal kingdom. There's not so much nice humans, and there are nice humans, but there are some killer humans. You see, there's some humans that even prey upon the other humans.
Yep. Same with Bigfoot.
The same with bear, right? You'll get that bear that'll come beside you and just keep walking. You'll get that one that turns into a man killer. You know what I mean? And same with black bears. So you got to believe that one time you might get a renegade juvenile through there who goes on and whenever I think about that, I think about those elephants, the ones that go on the rampage in Africa, but they got to bring the big bull elephant in there to keep the other elephants in check, the other male elephants in check. Yep. And I wonder somehow if those problem Bigfoots, the ones that, and I've heard of stuff. I've heard some of these stories I've read and I've studied as an investigator. I've studied. And they brought in the hounds, and the hounds can't track them this way, that way. And I'm saying, well, there's only one other way they could have went, and that's underground. Yep. I've always been a believer, and these things are underground. When you bring a track dog up and the dog can't track you off the mountain, then you didn't go off the mountain, you went in the mountain.
That's it. Yeah.
I agree with that.
I can see that. Yeah, I agree too.
Guys, that's from an investigative standpoint. You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. I know it didn't go up. If the dog can't track it off the mountain, then it went in the mountain.
What was it Sherlock Holmes said?
That's it.
Yes, just like you said.
Eliminate the improbable, no matter what's left is the possible.
It's probable. And you can't tell me that as fast as these things disappear, that they don't have ground entrances. I believe they do.
I do too.
But here's the problem on that. Guys, I firmly believe on those ground entrances, if you find one, you might not make it out. Yeah, that's that's just me. If I'm one of these creatures and I have a family to protect, I think they generally leave us alone, but I wouldn't put it past one to kill somebody to protect his family. Yeah. That's just me. So you got to be real careful. Is my point, guys.
Yep.
You just got to be real careful on that stuff and what have you. Because I believe I've heard of these people wanting to go out and find where these things live. Don't be too much in a hurry to go find something. Well, anyway, thank you for having me, buddy. Appreciate you.
Oh, wow. I thank you for being our guest. That's actually, we're over our hour, our little red light's blinking. we got 10 minutes before we got to start paying. So I'll let everybody have their closing comments. We'll start with Dale and BC, and then down to Darren and Neil and Barry. And then we'll sign off. But like I said, don't leave yet. Once I tell you we're signed off, then we'll talk a little bit. All right.
All right.
All right, Dale, go ahead.
Well, appreciate seeing you, Darren. It's been a while.
You too, buddy.
I hope you come out with us again sometime. And
I'll be there on the 1st. I believe there's one in March, right? I'll be there on the 1st. I'm trying to get my wife to come with me, but she won't.
I know what that's like.
Yeah.
All right, BC. You there, BC?
Don't think so.
I don't think so.
I don't guess.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You there, BC?
Oh, okay. All right. Enjoyed listening
we
to you,
can.
Darren. And okay, and everybody, may the good Lord watch over you, and hope to see y'all or talk to y'all again next month.
Thank you.
All right, sounds good. All right, Darren.
Well, thanks again for having me, guys. I really, really appreciate it.
Oh, it's been great. Neil?
Sorry for showing up late, guys. It was what and looking forward to the next investigation.
Right, we'll talk about that in a minute. All right, Barry.
It's good to see everybody. Nice to meet you, Darren. God bless everybody. Be careful out there. My phone's overheating, so I may not be able to stick around after we log off.
All right. All right. That's the Seekers podcast for February 2025. Join us next month in March around the 23rd and watch for the post we'll be posting. And if you have any activity, as usual, contact us. The Arkansas Boys at gmail.com or go on the Folklore Bigfoot investigation page, leave us a comment, or you can contact Neil or Dale or BC, depending on where you're at in Arkansas. And in Kentucky, you can contact Barry. And it's like I said, it's been good having you as a guest, Darren, and we enjoyed talking to you. And we'll see everybody next month.
Thank you.
God bless y'all.